Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Tuesday, October the 24th, 2023. Last week we had a whole week on generosity, and I said at the time that every Tuesday going forth here till the end of the year, I'm going to do a generosity devotion. And so it is Tuesday of a new week, and so we're going to talk more about generosity, about being able to give liberally and open-handed with the things that we have to share with others, to be generous with others. In the 10th chapter of the Gospel of John, Jesus said, "The sheep follow him because they know his voice." And I was reminded of I actually looked it up on my phone. About a year ago, my wife was down visiting my oldest daughter and son-in-law down in Delaware. They have the two grandsons, the youngest of which had been born in the summertime. And he's obviously on the changing table, whether maybe my wife had just changed his diaper, I don't know, but she's tickling him and talking to him, and he's looking at her, laughing, having a good old time, and yet there's all kinds of distractions in the background. There's a football game on, you can hear. There's my other daughter, Sarah, talking at one point, her husband, my son-in-law, Jared, talking, and yet the little guy, Ewan, he's just intently focused on Grandma. And then all of a sudden he turns because my oldest daughter, his mommy, had entered the room and said something, I think probably to everybody. And he just snapped his neck because he heard his mommy's voice. He heard his mommy's voice. He knew his mommy's voice. And there was nothing. At that point, my wife even says it on the video, she lost it. There's nothing she could do to entertain him or keep his attention once mommy came in the room and talked. We're reminded that in our lives that there are many distractions, and there's voices calling for our attention. Some of them are fun. Some of them are promising things that they really can't deliver. Many of them aren't bad, but they can be distractions, and we can be distracted by things that ultimately aren't that important. All these things that are calling for our attention, and yet our focus should always be on hearing and knowing Jesus's voice. What does Jesus say? What does Jesus call us to? And so I'm reminded here of Matthew 6, verses 19 to 21, where Jesus says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust consumes, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." There's a whole bunch of things that Jesus can say that we should pay attention to. But I'm reminded of this one here, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We always think of it. It took me many years to finally understand that. I feel kind of dumb that it took me that long, because a lot of times, maybe you're like me, that I was for a long time. If my heart's in the right place, then my treasure will follow. If my heart's in the right place, then I will give generously to worthy causes. I'll give generously to church. If my heart is in the right place, I'll be generous. And what Jesus is saying is, no, where your treasure is, there's your heart. Where your treasure is, there's your heart. And so people have commented that a good way to really kind of gauge that or understand that is, in the old days, look at your checkbook. Where are you spending your money? I suppose today it would be more at looking at your your credit card statement every month. Where are we spending money? And a lot of times we do it without thinking. There's all these voices, got to have this, you got to do that. All these things that are good things to a great extent in many cases, but are they the most important thing? Where is your treasure? Well, your treasure, where's your heart? Your heart is where your treasure is. Your heart is where you're spending money. That's really telling you and others, what's most important to you. I had a chance on Sunday to go to a Giants football game. Hadn't been to a game at the MetLife Stadium, the new Giants Stadium. I'd only been to the old stadium maybe twice, 30 some years ago. But my daughter, as a special treat, my oldest daughter, the mother of the grandson, took me to the game, and there was a whole other story about getting there. But it was a lot of fun. But I was amazed at the people that are there that you could tell weren't like us. Like, you go at maybe once or twice a lifetime. There were people who bought season tickets. I can't even imagine what that costs. And they're dressed out in all the paraphernalia. They're buying all the souvenirs. The tickets are not cheap if you're a season ticket holder, and the parking and all the costs and all the food and everything else. And I'm not saying that those things are bad. They're not. But what did Jesus say? Where your treasure is, there's your heart. There your heart will be also. And whether it's football or some other sport or some other pursuit, when you look at where you spend your money, that's going to tell you, what's most important to you. And Jesus's words are kind of a haunting reminder that if we are followers of Jesus, if we take seriously our baptismal call to share the good news with the world, that's where our heart should be. Well, our use of our treasure, the use of our finances and so forth, should reflect that, if in fact that's where our heart is. So it's a good reminder sometimes to sit back and say, where am I spending my money? Is there more that I can be and could be and maybe should be doing to help, as a Christian, those less fortunate than myself, to help the church as it reaches out with the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, to a hurting, troubled world? Those are kind of haunting questions, but we need to hear that voice, of all the distractions, all the voices in our ears. What's Jesus calling us? Well, what does he say? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Well, hope you have a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow and for the rest of the week talking about some aspect of faith, and hope you join me for that. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.